What is going on, everyone? This is Seth, one of the co-hosts of Engaged Podcast. Hope you're doing good. Hope your week's going good. If you're new to the podcast, we highly advise that you hit subscribe wherever you're listening to this podcast right now, whether that be on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, YouTube, or Spotify. Wherever you're hearing my voice right now, hit subscribe. That way, you will get notified every time we come out with a new episode of Engaged Podcast. So ultimately, it's going to make things easier on you. So go ahead and do that. Also, if you don't know yet, we're doing a bit of a campaign right now for our YouTube page. If you go onto our YouTube page, which the link is just down below, if you click that link, it will take you right to our page. If you subscribe to our page, your name gets put into a hat. And at the end of the summer, so at the end of August, so about a month from now, we're going to pick a random name out of that hat. And if the person, probably, hopefully will be you, if you live in the local area and your name is picked, you will have an opportunity to be a guest on our show. If you don't live in the local area and your name gets picked, then me as in me and Pastor Anthony, we will send you one of Anthony's favorite books, completely free, with our name signed on the inside cover. So you either will be a member of the show for an episode, or you'll get a free book with our name signed on the inside. It's a win-win for you. So go ahead and just do that as well. So hit subscribe to wherever you're listening to this podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you're listening to this on YouTube, you just hit subscribe one time, boom, you're done. Also, if you haven't come and checked it out yet, our 11 a.m. Sunday morning services, unfortunately, because we're outside and, with the wind and things like that, the sermon recordings do not give the service justice. It's one of those things it's kind of like a punk rock band. You gotta come and see it live in order to really get the overall experience and the weight of glory that you can get at a service. So 11 a.m. Faith Presbyterian Church outside service. It's a lot of fun. If you like being outside, you like doing something a little bit different than what we normally do for church, that is the perfect thing for you to do. All right, so that's enough of announcements. Our guest today is a very good friend of mine. He's actually, he's in a way family. He's married to my wife's cousin. His name is Dan Effinite. He is the creator and the host of the Breaking News Newcastle news page. That link for that's also down below. He was a fantastic guest. I loved talking to him, loved having him, and I know you are going to enjoy yourself too. So give it up for our friend, Dan Effinite.
Welcome back to Engaged Podcast here at Faith Presbyterian Church. This is where we are continuing our series called Leader2Leader, where we sit down with individuals who are leaders and influencers in our community. And today we're super excited to have Dan Effinite on. Dan is the leader of the Breaking News Facebook page platform for community development, and then also works for marketing director of ServaxNet. We are so glad you're here.
Thank you for having me. Really looking forward to being here. As soon as I heard you were actually doing a podcast in the Sharon Herald, I read your article in the Sharon Herald, and really motivated. Anybody that's doing anything good in the community, very happy to help in any way I can. So we'll make sure you get as much attention as possible.
Sweet. I love it.
And Seth, how's it going today?
Good. I'm on my second cup of coffee. Death Wish coffee.
Wow. If we keep mentioning Death Wish coffee, will they send us free Death Wish coffee?
Potentially, yes. So Death Wish is you can only get it on Amazon, right?
I got it at Walmart, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? I heard that's famous stuff.
It's the best. My brother gave it to me a couple weeks ago. And I'm like, that is the best cup of coffee I've ever had. And it was like, I felt so energized afterward. And I'm like, so I had to buy it, and that's what we have here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The irony of Death Wish Coffee is that we're sitting in a church right now doing really uplifting things. And then when we offer people coffee, you're like, sure, what kind? Death Wish.
Yeah, Death Wish. You gotta, from a marketing perspective, you gotta look at Death Wish, and it begs the question, what were they thinking? Like, is this for, listen, I've had 1,000 cups of coffee and nothing does it good anymore. I need to switch to something stronger. This looks like it might kill me.
I think what it is they probably had 7 different names that they wanted to give it, but every one of them was taken. So finally they were like, we'll just call it Death Wish. Because, like, I don't know. Like, because I think the exact same thing, too. I'm like, that's not very appealing. But, again, if their promo is that it's the highest amount of caffeine they could legally put into a coffee, a cup of coffee, it would make sense why call it Death Wish coffee. Because if you can't handle it, you'll die.
Yeah.
Did you find us okay today?
I did. A little bit. Mainly, yes. I found the building. I missed that turn.
Okay.
It's a sharp turn, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody that visits, you may want to just let them know that turn's a little bit difficult. Yeah.
Especially when there's that cornfield thing right in front of it. So even if, like, we have our sign, that cornfield that's right next to our church, it blocks the sign. So you can't see it as you're driving until you're, like, right there. Mm-hmm. So...
It marks it as a street. If it just said, here's your entrance, figure out a way in, that'd be fine. But it marks it as like a street, and you're not expecting it to be right there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
That's what happened to me. So
Gotcha.
There's been some folks that's happened to. So,
well,
yeah.
You're here.
Yeah, I am here.
Well,
I'm here, and I'm glad to be here.
All right.
We all use the same mics, too.
Mine's a little bit different.
I use the Yeti Blue.
Okay.
The Yeti Blues. They are great little guys there.
They're so the quality is so high that they can hear you blink.
Yeah, they pick up everything, and this is on the lowest setting.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. This is on the lowest gain setting.
Yeah, because especially with him,
his is on the highest gain setting. It looks like.
I think his is on the lowest. Yeah, because it's low to high, so his is on the lowest.
Maybe I'm looking at it backwards.
Yeah. Yeah, because with him, I thought for the longest time I'd have to put his up higher because he tends to talk all the way back here. But if you put it even to like the 9 o'clock spot, you hear everything, digestion, swallowing. Like they're so sensitive. So like yeah, but my thing is you can always turn it up in the editing mode, but if it's too high. You can't. There's little you can do after that.
Yeah.
So,
trial
which
and error.
Yeah, they're very sensitive. What's nice about it is the range of recording that they pick up.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So, probably the reason why I tell you why I'm here essentially is we've got so. I am the marketing director for ServaxNet. I'm also one of the biggest community advocates, or at least I would dub myself one of the biggest community advocates for Newcastle. I developed a page. The name of the page is The Breaking News, and you can't see me if this is a podcast, but you can't see me. I'm actually doing the double karate chop, as everybody knows it. The Breaking News started out as a page to basically be a community advocate, right? So if you're doing something right in the community, we want to give you attention. And it was developed because we're sick of everybody sort of saying, if you follow any Newcastle community news page or breaking page or discussion page, if you follow anything, it's very negative. It's very negative in nature. And so we kind of wanted to hijack that and turn it into something positive. In terms of ServaxNet, I'm also very into the economic development side of Newcastle as well. ServaxNet offered me a position to be their head marketer. We kind of make up titles there because it's 3 guys in an office right now at the Newcastle building, but they have corporate headquarters and such. But that having been said, we've gotten a lot of marketing done for the city, and we've worked in collaboration with the city and the county on developing economic projects as well. So we're very happy with the progress of those things.
There's a lot of negativity. You mentioned just the city of Newcastle, but I'm sure you'd agree that news in general tends to be focused on the negative.
Yes. Here's an interesting thing about news is, would you watch it if it was all positive? Right? Would you watch all positive news? And so you have to wonder, personally, I don't care. I'd rather you not watch than show something negative, or I'd rather clarify something or look at from an objective point of view. I don't think there's any news that isn't subjective anymore. I feel like it's just all very two-sided. So negativity comes from building your own narrative. See, the news stations anymore, I don't feel like they want to be positive. I don't feel like they want to be anything but whatever story they want to drive,
Yeah, everything's scandals, everything is falling stars, it's all negative stuff. Because I tell you, I personally, as far as news goes, I hate those morning news shows. And I think the reason why is because it's I don't want to say it's too positive, but it's almost unrealistic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so weird that you just brought that up, because I'm that's so true, because the news shows I don't watch are the ones that are built to be more positive. I don't watch the news a lot anyways, but that's an interesting insight.
It makes it hard, right? I'd ask you the question, where do you get your news from? And you can automatically give somebody a set of values, right? So if you say, hey, I watch CNN, you automatically hand somebody a set of values that almost makes them very predictable as people. Mm-hmm. And that negativity, you can tell what type of negativity they're going to have, or what type of positive ideas they're going to have. Unfortunately, that's a major problem inside of national TV.
It's sensationalism.
Yes.
It sells. And so people tune in. But you do ask a pretty good question. And I'm interested actually in the listener. So if you're out there, think about that question and drop a line in the comments. Would you listen to the news if it was purely positive? I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what people would say to that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were you raised in a house where, somebody was always watching the news? It was constantly on TV?
I was.
Personally, my parents were. My mom was never. My dad was never home, and neither was my mom. So it was basically the only thing that was on TV was SpongeBob, essentially. So
okay.
Yeah. But I can say this. I can say this about what you watch is people really don't have an idea of what they want to watch. And I know this sounds crazy, but if you think about it, and I can actually speak to this with some data. We had polls. We do polls, and I know you will be very active on our page once you kind of learn about it. But Seth, I know you've seen some of the stuff. Mm-hmm. And one of the things we do is we actually poll the audience, and we say, what are you interested in? What would this be? What would that be? And then we give them exactly what they want, and we gauge it by views, right? The ultimate test of something is how many views a thing gets.
Right.
And so I'll give you some of our, we said, what do you want? And, people wanted to hear from local politicians and things like that. And so we sat down and we had those interviews. Well, the biggest things we've done so far was we've hosted the debates. We've hosted the city debates. We've hosted the Republican primary debates, and we hosted the city debates. We also hosted the county debates. And the number one watched thing was where there was a lot of animosity. There was a lot of tension in the one particular general election debate that we had. The other thing that had the most views was something of was when the BLM protests were happening. I don't know exactly what the movement's called, so I'm just gonna refer to it as the BLM protest. If there is a better name for it, I don't know it. But that said, the BLM protest that had 20,000 views in a matter of moments. And why do you think that is? Is you can't say, I want to watch people protest, right? You don't know that. Or you don't know what you want to watch until it's available, and you just can't take your eyes away. And so one of the interesting things we've pulled up with is, that never showed up on a list. We don't want people, going crazy on a list, but it's there, right? And you watched it. Well, in this particular case, you were hoping it was happening, or you were watching to see if it happened, but that said, the other thing would have been the mayoral debates, which was one of the most interesting caveats of our whole film script. People started watching city council meetings, but they don't hit as hard. They don't hit as hard as these hard-hitting interviews that we have with people, and the live stream attendance versus the after watches, they can get higher or lower, but essentially people don't know what they want until you come up with something, and that's your job as a creator, is to get in there, and you kind of got to mix around. You kind of gotta stir the pot a little bit and see what flavors of ice cream you're making and see if they're good. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the biggest things we've been having. We've been really successful at, and that's one of the things that no one understands what we do. And what we do is we have the conversation. We give the people what they want, even when it is that they don't know what they want.
Interesting, very interesting. Go ahead. I knew you want to ask a question.
One of the things usually the guests, when they're on here, I have either a personal connection or I know them pretty well. You're new to me, and Seth, and that's cool. But one of the things that I asked you before you were on the show, in the what you called the vetting process, which I thought, how accurate.
Right.
When you said that, you were smart enough to know he's seeing if he's going to sit in this office, right?
Sure.
I asked you, what do you do? Give the person who's unfamiliar with the show, listening to this, what is it that you do?
So the way I had trouble answering that question too. The best way I can describe myself is I am a platform, right? A personal brand that is a platform for people that are doing well. If you plan on doing well, or if you have an idea that I can get behind, or after some level of vetting, we believe that is a positive idea or may bring about a positive change, I am there for you to stand on. And whether that is with The Breaking News, whether that is with ServaxNet, and we're also starting the Regional Technology Center as well, which is going to be basically a technology council, so to speak. And I give you the platform that you need to be successful. However, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to save everybody, because I can't. Right? I can't. I look at people and I look at what they've done, and I say, do I want to work with this person? Have they put up enough effort for me to step in and say, okay, let's talk about your next step? And that's essentially what I am. I'm the next step.
All right, very good. So how would people get in touch with you, get a hold of you?
I am extremely accessible on Facebook, almost to the level of too accessible on Facebook. I make it a point to answer. Yes, Seth's laughing. Almost a point. I make it a point to answer every comment, every question, every mention towards me. I make it a point to answer and engage and connect with as many people as possible, whether they agree with me or not. There's been some knockdown dragouts, and you know who you are. But eventually they end up being my friend afterwards, because they understand, as I believe in a strong moral compass, right? And you can't go wrong with that. No one can hate you. No one can hate you if you just stand by your own convictions. So I get in arguments. I've been accused of everything in the book, which I know, that's how I know I'm being even, right? That's when you're dealing with politicians, especially. What will happen is I'll have two sides politicians, a Republican and a Democrat, and they'll go after each other and they'll say, well, Dan's being biased towards the Democrat candidate, or Dan's being biased towards the Republican candidate. And I know that if both sides hate me,
that means you're somewhere in the middle.
That means we're delivering the information just how it should be.
This is how you know you hit your goal, when everybody hates you.
Essentially, yes.
Perfect.
Yes. That is absolutely it. They hate me, but I kid you not, there are people out there that they don't appreciate it, but they watch. And there are people out there that absolutely, and if you're out there and you do send me messages that say, thank you for what you're doing, just so you know, I really appreciate that. There's 10 times more people that'll tell me that they appreciate what I'm doing, and that's really what keeps me going. Because if it was all hate, I wouldn't do it. I would just go kayaking.
Excuse me. You mentioned a few things I want you to tease out a little bit.
Yeah.
You're married.
Yes.
What is your wife's name?
Kristen Effinite.
And how long have you been married?
So, I've been married. We celebrated our 10-year anniversary, but I've been dating Kristen since I was 16 years old. So I'm 35 now, and that means that since I was 16, we've been together longer than we've actually been alive. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? Am I saying that right? Yeah. There's more years that we've been together since I've been alive than there's less years that we've been apart.
You make it a point to be available for others, and you interact with your audience. Has that ever caused an issue with her at home going, Dan, shut the computer off, right? So, and I'm not asking you to share personal stories. My point is for the audience out there, how do you balance that kind of work life and family life? Because today more than ever, you're heavily involved in online stuff. Before, when you went to work, you walked into work, you punched in, you did your 8 or 9 hours, you punched out, and you were home. Well, now with the advent of the internet and the things that we're involved with, the lines are blurred so terribly that there's really no punching in and punching out. You're sort of working all the time. So tell us, and maybe it's not an issue, maybe it's not, but tell us how you balance that work life plus being a good husband.
I'm looking at you shocked because that's such an amazing question that, that wasn't prompted or anything. You pulled that out, and that's what it takes to be that's a great interview question, and I'm going to steal that. Just so you know that. That's why I'm looking at you amazing. Because
trademark Anthony Coditis, pastor, faith president.
Yeah, great question. And when you ask about the work life, there's a work life balance that everybody tries to achieve, and here's my problem. In terms of dealing with Kristen and I and our balance in our relationship. The answer to that is, yeah, we've had some discrepancies, and it was more scheduling issues than it was dealing with, hey, you're always gone or this. It was like, hey, well, I have this thing, it's really important to this person, and you want to go out to dinner, so we can schedule. It's just bad scheduling issues. I can say that we've been together for so long that we're very comfortable in our relationship, that I can do X, Y, she can do X, Y, and it doesn't really affect us. If she wants to go for a weekend with her friends, I feel no ways about it. And if I want to have this and do this or work till this time, neither one of us, we get along very well. In terms of her engagement inside of there, I wish she was more of a cheerleader. But she doesn't, because she knows me so well, she doesn't necessarily look at it as a big deal as everybody on the outside looking in does. We have a very large reach of people, and I get recognized in certain events and things like that. And I'm by no means saying, I'm celebrity status or anything like that. Please don't think that. But I do get recognized enough to where, I think it's funny, and she's like, she doesn't see or understand the concept of it because she sees me every day. In terms of, you asked about, what the work-life balance is, or where my lines are, and they are very blurred. Dealing with leveraging relationships and having to work at a company with a marketing director without an entire marketing department, where you are the marketing department. That means at any moment I've got to fly out this way, or I've got to go do this, or I've got to drive here and meet this guy, and then all while still maintaining the breaking news. So it can get very, very difficult to have this line of work-life balance, and I actually can't be bored. And that's the whole reason why the breaking news started, is because you have hobbies, right? You lift, you practice music, you learn coding, you follow your interests essentially, right? So I just got bored, right? And I needed to fill my time with something else, and I just can't be bored. And so the breaking news brought on a new level of projects, whether that's in audio development, dealing with, we talked a little bit about editing software that we use, and now working with ServaxNet, dealing with a large amount of hosting. We did kind of side skirt around doing podcasts and things like that, because it's very easy to do. But you just can't be bored. You just can't sit around. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. And plus, and we see a little bit of this. Hopefully, we see more. You can't be bored, because the rock that goes in water is your breaking news page, but then the ripples are all of the different things you have on there, and then on top of that, all the comments.
That's very well said.
Right? It's a living thing, and so every new interaction is something new. It really is. And so in that way, yeah, it's kind of thrilling. I like that.
Yeah.
So you posted something of ours, the podcast, I think last week, and immediately there was a criticism. Right. And I called you right away, and you're like, don't worry about it. And I wasn't worried, like it didn't get to my heart, but and for Seth and I working in the church, fortunately for us, this is a nice culture here. It's church. Not all churches are like this, but we have a particularly, I would say, blessed situation.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So people are generally very nice. If somebody wants to criticize you, they'll usually be thoughtful about it, and they'll talk to you, but they'll do it in a way that's thoughtful. And right away, it was like the first thing we put, there was an immediate slam, right?
Yes. I apologize.
Yeah, and it's fine. And I know that's the risk you take when you put yourself out there. But you probably get that way more with a more criticism. How do you deal with that?
There's only like a few things that hit home. And so if someone would be like, "Oh yeah, Dan's bald," I'm okay with that. That's a fair assessment, right?
They're not revealing some secret.
Yeah, exactly. There's only a few things that will really get to me, and those things, the way I deal with them is just like anybody else. I go through my cycle where it's like, hey. I'm not allowed to. I can't swear on this show.
That's right. This is the no swear zone.
This is the no swearing show. Zone. So just for the record, it's difficult. I'll fill those in with ums. So that said, I go through that cycle, right? And I get angry. You not even angry. You get irritated. You get a blip of that irritation. You write out something, you read it over, and then you delete it. And you're like, you know what? Then you assess if you should send it first, and then you delete it. 99% of the time, I just delete it. But it feels good to get it out. I don't try to be adversarial. There are some things, and I'll say this too, I have my opinions, but I keep them to myself. And that's really hard to do when you're interviewing someone. Think about all the times when you've had people on here that you don't necessarily agree with, that you have to keep your mouth shut and go, this guy's just crazy. And I want to talk to him. I want to really go after this craziness, but I just have to ask more questions. And so being in the position where you ask questions really puts you in a position of control over your own emotions. And I've realized that over time. And I'm sure you have. I'm sure you've had doing all these interviews. You're in control because you're the one asking the questions, and it gives you a better understanding of controlling your own emotions and controlling your own thoughts and ideas.
Well said.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just going to say, thank God that my typo wasn't crispy fries.
Crispy fries.
Crispy fries. It was just the...
Give folks the background so they know what we're referring to.
So when we posted the Chris Fry podcast episode, when I typed in the information, not once, not twice, but 3 times, when I spelled out his name, Frye, my phone autocorrected it to just Fry, and I didn't catch it. And then I submitted it, and before I realized it, it wasn't even on the break. It wasn't even on Facebook for not even like an hour, and you had shared it, and someone commented, "Wow, they couldn't even get his name right," or it was something to that effect. And I'm like, "Oh man!" So I quickly went back and I had to edit. I went into YouTube, Apple Podcasts, everywhere to try to change the name, and it was like, I cannot believe I didn't catch that. So that was the criticism.
So let me say this: the person, I don't know if she's going to listen to this podcast, but her name's Ronnie Dam, and Ronnie Dam is, believe it or not, the very first interview that I had. So the person that went on to say that to you was actually one of the candidates that were running for mayor inside of Newcastle, and she didn't win. But we've developed a sort of friendship, and you develop friendships with all these people you would never expect. Like
right.
You and I, we're going to be friends. Seth and I, full disclosure, Seth and I, we're kind of family. We're family, right?
We're family,
Is that how you say that?
Family through, I always say family through marriage.
Yeah, we're family. Thank you. We're family through marriage. But you develop all these crazy relationships with people that you would have never expected. Now, Ronnie Dam, is she 100% appropriate by, calling you out? Well, it's Facebook. That's, when you put yourself out there on Facebook, you leave yourself, and not on just Facebook alone, just when you put yourself out there, let's say, you leave yourself open to anything, anything. And if there's something wrong, you're gonna know about it, and that's how long it took,
So, to go full circle, the crispy fries comment is after you put Chris Fry, Fry,
right?
The autocorrect took the E off.
Yeah.
Dan, very selectively and with some humor, said, "That's nothing because my phone autocorrects it crispy fries." Mm-hmm. So thank you for stepping in and making it lighthearted.
Chris Fry and I, again, one of those relationships you develop. So him coming on, his interview was absolutely wonderful. He is a man of God, that's for sure. He's a strong individual, and he's got his moments where he's like really tough, and so there's something there that you have to respect about the guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But so I text him as crispy fries though. So he's very crispy fries.
Well, I mean, that's happened. I think almost every guest we've ever had. My phone, I've actually considered getting rid of the autocorrect because, especially with the names, I can't tell you how many times, like the Longinetti, it keeps wanting to break up his name, and I had to fight it 3 or 4 times to get it to not autocorrect it, but and of course, I mean, the whole thing was obviously my fault for not reading through it and catching it before, but...
Do you remember when you wrote my name the first couple times, what it autocorrected to? You don't remember? Jeff Goldblum? Remember that? Go ahead and, when we post this, you're going to see the picture of Dan and I, and look at my face, because apparently these two characters in here tell me that I look like the guy from Jurassic Park.
What you have to say that I messed it up before, and I said, who was it?
John Goodman.
John Goodman. I got my actors mixed up, and I called him.
I was kind of bummed out. I said the guy from Roseanne. No, the guy from The Fly. Okay, okay, we're good.
I was escorted out of the interview.
Yeah,
this almost didn't happen.
You walked in here and you said something that caught my eye. It was a little quote.
Where's your bathroom?
No, not where's the bathroom. No. You said and I want to get it right. So I don't know if I am, but
sure.
I'm uncomfortable by being uncomfortable.
I'm comfortable being uncomfortable.
I'm comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Is that a motto of yours, or is that just something that came out of your mouth, like that moment?
No, that is definitely something I live by. So, you sent me a list of questions, and I read down to the third one, and I said, you know what, I want to answer these genuinely. And if you ever did anything, there's a whole. I have layers. You know, everybody knows that. Seth especially knows that because he sees me during, family events. So I have a business side, I have a serious side, and there's not much of a filter. And I wanted to give that to you today because actually this is the first time that I've ever been interviewed. So believe it or not, you're getting the first interview with me. So this is the first time I've sat on the other side.
How's it going in your estimation?
I feel like I'm talking a lot. I feel like I'm over talking. That's what it essentially feels like. But it's, again, I'm used to being on the other side of the table. Mm-hmm. So I think to myself, do people really care? Do people really care about what I put on the breaking news? And but obviously, 3,000 people in the last video, 5,000 in the next, 20,000 in the next. So people do watch what I do. So.
Wait till they see this one.
Oh,
we're gonna get in the millions.
I hope so. Mm-hmm. I hope so. Billions, maybe. We'll break Facebook. We'll beat Tekashi 6ix9ine.
There you go.
I have no idea what that means, but I like it. All right, so let's get back to your story, okay? Talk to us about influences. Who are the people that have influenced you in your life? But not just who. Tell us why. What are the qualities, the characteristics about them?
So this is the one question. This is I think the last question I did read. And you said Brian Pruitt's your cousin.
Yeah. I don't know if I wanted to say that on air. But
okay,
sure.
Sorry.
I'm
Cut
kidding.
it out.
I'm kidding.
Bleep it. So his best friend is Jordan. Mm-hmm. Jordan's brother, Dono, is his Dono Ramovich is his name. He's one of the biggest influences that have brought me kicking and screaming through everything that I do well right now. And to kind of give you an example of our relationship, me and Dono, is I was 12 years old, didn't know how to ride a bike. He forced me to ride a bike because all 12-year-olds should know how to ride a bike by then, right? So that's our relationship with me and Dono, is that he's always been there for me. He's always been a positive influence. We've started, companies together. We've done well in auto parts, and it's all thanks to him and his family. And so I'm very, very grateful when you're at such a young age, and there's two people at a young age. His mother, her nickname was Bee Frog, and we always say shout outs to Bee Frog when we mention her. But I'm very fortunate to have positive influences in my life that I didn't necessarily get a lot of positive influences from directly in my family. I got them sort of outsourcing, if you will. All these major players in my life were all I'm very grateful to have. So that number one would definitely be Dono, and he still to this day is a part of my life. He lives in Nashville. He moved. He did all the work to move me to Nashville. He basically advocated for me to own my own business. And that brings me, you asked two of them, right? You said there was, okay. So the next one would be Wes. And his name's Wes Shutt. He's the owner and operator of Capital Accounts. And Capital Accounts, when I went there, they moved me down to Nashville. It was 2008. And he put me right next to his cubicle. I sold collection sales for him for, years. And he had such an impact on me. Like the person you're speaking to right now is the sum of, Dono, Wes, and a few other people in my life. But the person you're speaking to is, I'm just a sum of those people. And that's why they're the biggest two shares of that, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is the quality? Like, what is the character quality that you admire about them, or that they have invested in you and you try to sort of incorporate it in your own life?
So Dono's the type of person that you can put inside of a desert and he'll figure out how to make money. And when you start to think about who you are, where your place is in the world, one thing that Dono does well is knows that, right? He knows who he is very well. And that's a characteristic that you don't see in very many people. A lot of us are just wanderers, right? Looking for definitions. Where Dono just knows what he likes. If you go to his house, there's very little technology around, but the guy is a guru in terms of website development and auto parts and things like that. But when you go to his house, there's no pictures on the wall. He's just focused on the one thing, because nothing else inspires him other than the things that he's interested in. And if we could all be so focused, that Wes, the one thing I admire about him is that there is no, you almost want to say he's stoic, to where there is no give up in him, and he doesn't get any emotions involved. When it's business, period. And when he's talking to you, he always pushes you, no matter what. No matter if you're doing great. I was top salesman, 5 years in a row. I was working on marketing, doing a lot of other projects, and no matter what, he would push me. And that's inside and outside of the inside and outside of the business relationship. He would get mad at me. He would call me and he said, "Why do you want a job? We'll give you $600,000. Go buy kites and go sell kites." That's the kind of attitude he had with me. He was, he would always just push me and push me and push me and expect me to kind of understand what things that, from growing up in a small city, a small Newcastle city, being in Mahoningtown, God forbid. Shout out to Mahoningtown. But he would just push me to do these things that you would never expect someone from that era or from that city would do.
Very good.
Very cool. Did you like living in Asheville?
They dragged me kicking and screaming back, to be honest with you. The deal is that when we got married, when me and my wife got married, is that we would move back here and start a family. So, obviously, we're working on that. That's it. I'm here, and I've accepted that. I've accepted that, and as you can see, I'm doing the best I possibly can. So if I can't go out there and I can say this isn't the best place, well, what's it need? All right, let's start with that. And if we chisel away at it, I feel we can get somewhere to some symbiance of a good city.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you, because as you know, before I lived here, I lived in St. Louis.
I remember.
And when you go from St. Louis to Newcastle, it's not even in the same ballpark as the same type of living environment. Nashville is a completely different city, because Nashville is it's Nashville, right? So I was gonna see if you living in Newcastle now, if your mission, and almost in a way, is you're always comparing it to something like a Nashville, saying, I want to get a place like Newcastle to be in the future like a Nashville, even if I never see it. Because I can't help but do that with Newcastle, where I'm I would love to see Newcastle be a miniature version of a Pittsburgh or a St. Louis. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know. That's just...
So there is Warren Buffett. We all know Warren Buffett. They call him the Oracle of Omaha. But you know what Omaha was, right? It was nothing. It was, just a bum town. And he turned it into what it is today. So it's not that it's impossible. I don't believe that it will ever be impossible. We're in a strategic location.
Right.
Right? We just need to figure out our identity, and we need to move that forward. And above all else, if we never get there, we never get there. Right? All we need, it's not as far away as we think, and it's not as close as we'd like it to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you're doing so much involved in the community. It's a lot of what you're doing is trying to lift others, inspire others. What do you think Newcastle needs right now?
Money.
Say more. Say more.
No, no. Essentially, the answer, that's the short answer, right? That's the short answer is money, and I'm kind of joking with you, but the truth of the matter is we need people to stay here, and we need smart, educated, ingenuitive people. That's what we need. We need ingenuity. And we've spent, and I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus of old leadership, new leadership, but we've spent so long with, hey, can you get me a job here? Can you do this for me there? Inside of our own local government, that it kind of gave us a point where, everybody focused on potentially getting inside the government and versus, hey, I'm smart. I can go out and I can make this company, or I can make that company. I can invest dollars in here. I can source labor from this city. I think that what needs to happen is that we need to, first of all, technology's a new wave, right? Technology, we've got our data center spinning up very soon. We'll be a hub. We'll be a hub because if you look around, I believe we have 30, 40 miles of control over, or we're the only game in town for 30, 40 miles. Also, that place is huge. That's going to be my playground for developing new things. I was just on a call before I came here with the new CDC, the Citywide Development Corp, not CDC, Citywide Development Corp. I was just on a conference call with them before I came here, talking about all the potentiality of the ServaxNet building. And they're on board, and so we do have these great groups of people that all want to do something. But to be honest with you, a lot of them have outdated views. We'll never be a labor town. We just need to understand that. The one thing we have, and the sooner we recognize is we can pivot to technology.
Right.
And the faster we do that versus, training a guy to work in a steel mill that will eventually be outsourced to Mexico. Also, there's a lot of social programs inside of Newcastle. Not that I have a problem with social programs, but it shouldn't be taking up as much of the space for jobs too. So if you eliminate essentially government programs, you have 50% less jobs and less income. So our problem's really bigger than we think. But the short answer to that is we need jobs and we need taxable income.
I like the word ingenuity too. That's critical.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier something. You said that you have how did you put it? A moral compass. What is that? Where'd you get it from?
Oh man, I read that in a book and it stuck with me. And if you give me a second, maybe it was Maxwell.
John Maxwell.
I believe it was Maxwell. Don't hold me to that. But yeah, strong moral compass. Strong moral compass meaning as long as you do what you feel is right, as long as you're doing what you feel is right, then you just have to. How do I say this? Opportunities come, and opportunities come, and they're not always inside of what I feel would be morally acceptable, and I immediately discard them, even though they're worth money. Even though at the time I needed money, I still won't do things that I feel that are morally. How do you say that? Morally inept. Am I saying that correctly?
Sure.
Yeah. So I just refuse to do anything, and with that also comes objective looking at things, and this is where I referenced it as, because there are some people that would, I don't want to say ruin the integrity of an interview, but Yeah, well, that's exactly what they would do. They would ruin the integrity of an interview by potentially coaxing someone into or asking loaded questions and things like that. Now, as a salesman, I know what those are, right? So I don't do that. I intentionally don't do that. I actually think about those things to be the antithesis so that you as a viewer can look at things objectively.
Without getting into details, keeping things secret, have you ever been put in a situation where you were asked to compromise your moral compass and you had to say no, and it cost you?
Yeah. I get approached. See, the breaking news has a very readable rate. So for example, you notice you guys were featured in the Sharon Herald. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that I did do a debate, I did 3 debates. Have you ever seen it in the Newcastle News? No. I'll say this, in terms of, I'm not putting anybody's business out there, but in terms of dealing with almost they feel like I'm competition. And so there's opportunities that I get offered to, solicit businesses for advertising income or basically defund or devalue the Newcastle News, and I don't have an interest in that. But those are things that people would rather pay me for, right? People would rather pay me advertisement because it's more likely to get
the views and all that.
Yeah, exactly. I'll give you an example. The newspaper sends out 7,000 papers. Well, I get 3,000 hits a show, right? So the difference is people would see if they put it with me, and I wouldn't charge $1,000 for a page. Well, I get offered money all the time, believe it or not. I get offered all kinds of money to do advertising, but I don't take it because it ruins the integrity of it. Because what happens if this, let's say I take not that there's anything wrong with Pizza Joe's, but let's say I take, $1,000 off Pizza Joe's, and all of a sudden they have something go wrong with their pizza. Now I can't, what am I supposed to do? Interview Pizza Joe and have him say there's nothing wrong? I can't do that.
Right.
And so money corrupts, right? Money corrupts absolutely. Power corrupts absolutely. And I don't have an interest in taking any money or developing it into anything than what I'm doing, which is using it. I'm using my own platform, right? For if I want, it saves me money when I advertised jobs yesterday for ServaxNet. So I'm saving money there, but I'm not going to not extort. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to just basically use it for that purpose. So that's what I talk about when it comes to a strong moral compass.
My dad used to say to me, he used to quote Ben Franklin and say, "Neither a borrower or a lender be."
Yeah.
And you're free. You're free to do what you want and ask the questions you want. You're not beholden to anybody.
Exactly.
There we go.
Exactly.
Jeff Goldblum in the house.
Jeff Goldblum. I'm not behest, right? I'm not behest to anyone. I don't do any favors. I have access to all the politicians because they respect that, right? So, and also I'll say this: I don't get on. I want objective views. I don't get on and slam people. Mm-hmm. There's people that will get on to the breaking news and they'll make their own personal posts, and I don't slam them for having those. I don't slam a politician that is because I want to hear an objective view. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing we talked about over the phone. I said you could have a flat earther on, right? You could have a flat earther on, and we all know the Earth's not flat. I mean, we can scientifically prove it. They scientifically proved that the Earth was round. But you just have to ask. You can't be like, "Hey, man, listen, I've got some bad news for you." You can't do that to someone, especially on air.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'd say one of the things that, you just shared it now, and before we end, I just want to say one of the things that I've always respected about you a lot is that you do what you do because you genuinely care about people and you want to help people. Like, to me, one of the biggest things that stuck out to me was that one time, and I forget what the actual page is called, I apologize, but when we met down at that clothing store in downtown Newcastle, what was that place called?
Main Street Clothers, but it's no longer that. It was like it was just a warehouse at that point.
Yeah, and we met, and it was a faith-based get together.
Yeah.
Would you call it?
Pray Over the City is, I believe, was the name of it.
Right. And to me, that was so cool because you're not a churchgoer. Like, you're not, like, you didn't have a skin in the game. You weren't there to promote a church, right? Like, you weren't there. You were there because you saw a value in there being some sort of faith-based community there. And I thought that was really, really, really cool. Like, you were there because you genuinely cared. Like, you were there because it wasn't going to benefit you in any way, shape, and form as far as, like, getting your company promoted or whatever. You were there because you genuinely cared. And like you just said now with, people offering you money, it really isn't about that. You're really just about the actual people, the actual, and you even said too, like, you are that next step. You're not there to get personal glory from what you do. You're there to give other people glory. You're there to lift other people up. And to me, that's such a cool thing. And I wish more people were like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome,
Thank you.
sir.
You're going to make me cry.
Oh, good. That's our
You
goal
can't
with
see
every
that.
show.
We have
We like
tissues
to
over
make
there.
one person cry. Before we wrap up, I want to ask you a quick question. And usually I keep this question off, but because you said you didn't read it, it doesn't matter if it was on there or not. Just curious. You can go back in time, right? You leave this interview and you can get in a time capsule and go back, and you run into your old self. You're 10 years old. What advice do you give yourself?
Whew, okay. Let me think. That's a good question. So 10 years old, and the analytical side of me wants to say, what's a 10-year-old understand? But I let me, so what I would say is do what makes you happy, because money comes from what makes you happy. Follow your interest. That's it. That's it. I'll stop you right there. Follow your interests. Not do what makes you happy, because if you have to do something every day, it's not going to make you happy, right? I love what I do as a whole, right? But I don't love every day I walk in. And so just the number one thing is follow your interests, because your interests lead you to where you belong in life.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Very good.
Very cool.
Yeah. Well, I've enjoyed our time together.
Hey, I really appreciate meeting you, and Seth, it's always been great conversations.
Always.
So I really do. I love you guys. So thank you so much for having me on.
Thanks. Will you come back in the future if we have something new and different?
No, absolutely not. No.
Seth, make sure you cut that part out.
No, I'm joking.
Insert
I'm
my
joking.
voice. He said what he really said was, "Yes, I'm happy to come back on the show."
Just, you don't know the kind of chops we do just at things like that. But yeah. No, anytime you want to have me on, anytime. I'm always for you. I'm here.
Cool. Well, listen, this is Anthony Clauditis here at Faith Presbyterian Church, sitting with Dan Effinite, and always Seth Walters. Seth the Man Walters is here, and we hope that you enjoyed this program. In fact, we're confident that you will enjoy it, and you have enjoyed it. And this is Engaged Podcast, closing off for the day, Leader to Leader. We'll see you next time.